Greetings. Today I'd like to do a little overview of how I use a Studio Technologies Model 372A Dante Beltpack to provide a wired headset connection for a boom op working with me. I know that wireless is becoming more and more common for booming, but a lot of the time it's not practical, and I tend to do wired more often than not. And so we'll talk a little bit about the 372, why I chose it, how it works, the way I've got it set up. We will check in on the config on the Scorpio itself, as well as the other bits and bobs that make it work. And also I will say that right now you are listening to me on it. I have an AT4053 over here, it's 4053B, sorry, as the demo boom mic, but I intend to primarily use the audio from this headset going through the 372 so you can get a sense of what the 372 sounds like. Sorry, 372A, but I tend to say 372, sorry. This headset is a Sennheiser HMD 300. It has their 5-pin XLR cable, which is what the 372 uses. We'll get to that in a little bit. I also have over here my headset, which I use, that's connected to the Scorpio, but other than for doing a comms demo, not going to be wearing that because I want you to be able to hear the audio quality coming from this headset going through the 372, so you get a sense of how easy it is for you to understand your boom op. So with that out of the way, let's take a look at the 372. I chose the 372A because of a couple of things. One, Studio Technologies makes quality equipment. They are very durable. I mean, this is an all-metal chassis. It is not IP rated, and you can definitely see that there are points where water and whatnot could ingress. However, given that your boom op will probably be wearing some form of protection in inclement weather, I've never had an issue with water ingress or anything like that into the Beltpack. Because it's Dante, it means that this can go quite a distance away from my position, right? Ethernet is good for up to a little over 300 feet. Hopefully you never have to run your boom op that far away, but you could. And it is powered over Ethernet, which is both good and bad. It's good in that you don't have to worry about an extra set of batteries in the device itself on your boom op that might go bad or might drain out during the course of the day. But on the other hand, PoE is not something that's generally readily available in most people's bags. And so I've got this no-name, I got it off of Amazon. I talked about it too a little bit in the video that I did about the Voyage Audio Spatial Mic Dante. But it's a PoE Plus injector that is connected to my power distro. If I turn the PoE Plus off, so if I turn the aux2 output on the distro off, it's about 3 amps that's saved. So running this is using about 3 amps, no matter what the volume on the headset is set to. That doesn't really change much. When I hook it up to a real switch, the device, like most Ultimo devices, negotiates for 4 watts, and its draw is about 2 watts on average. So this PoE injector is burning an extra watt to convert from the power distro into Ethernet going to the Studio Technologies. It has independent controls for volume on the left and right channels, And these are push buttons or push dials, so the boom op can set a volume that they're happy with and then push them in to prevent accidentally changing them. And it's got a talk button, and the talk button can be either momentary or latched. So if they hold it down, it acts as momentary, and if they just tap it, it latches, which is handy because if your boom op is using both hands to hold the boom, they may not be able to reach down and tap the button when they want to talk to you, right? But if they're not actively booming and got their arms down, they can turn it off if they want so that they can have a private conversation, whatever. On the back, hopefully you can see this okay, we have the Ethernet with an Ethercon connector, so you can durable connection out in the field, which you want. And then we have the 5-pin broadcast style XLR headset connection. And we also have, I don't know if you can see it there, it's a little 3.5 millimeter headset connection that uses cables like your mobile phone you would use, some gaming headsets, etc. So it has to conform to the mobile phone spec, which most things these do these days anyway, right? And so if you have a boom op that prefers to wear some really small in-ear monitors or whatever that have that kind of connection, they can do that instead of the 5-pin broadcast using a headset like this. So it gives a little bit of flexibility based on what your boom op's preferences are. And that's about it for the hardware. It's actually pretty simple, which is nice because it means you don't have to have, not a lot of complexity for your boom op to have to deal with when they're focusing on trying to boom, right? So, like I say, this Ethernet cable is running around, goes into the PoE injector, and then the PoE injector, this red cable is going into one of the 2 Ethernet ports on the back of the Scorpio. And what I've got going on the Scorpio, channel 1 is the input from the AT4053B, and then channel 2, by virtue of the magic of Dante, which is another reason why I like this 372 being Dante, is that you can actually map it into multiple channels easily on the Scorpio. And also Dante remembers subscriptions when you unplug the device. So I was, at home, I configured the subscriptions. So the 372 left and right channels are subscribed to 2 outputs on the Scorpio. And then the last input on the Scorpio is subscribed to the talk button or to the talk channel on the 372 so that I can get them back, right? Because obviously with Dante, you're not using the comms return hardware that's in the Scorpio. It's all Dante, which is why the config is a little bit, needs a little bit of explanation. But for the purposes of this recording, I am not only doing the normal routing so that I could hear the comms in my headset, but I'm also sending it to channel 2 so it can be recorded by the Scorpio so that you all can hear it. And so with that said, let's bring you in closer on the Scorpio and we will go through how this is configured. So here we're at the home screen, obviously, and we have channel 1, as I said, is the AT4053B, and channel 2 is a copy of the audio coming from the model 372A so that you can hear it. The way I have this set up is I'm using 3 buses on the Scorpio to do this. 2 of them are for the boom op themselves, and 1 is for the comms returns back to me. And you could do it with less if you wanted to, but using the buses gives one extra flexibility in how you go about sending the feed to the boom op, because what every boom op wants to hear tends to be a little different. If we go into the menus, the first thing is I'll show that on channel 32 I have this subscribed to Dante 32 in, and that is the channel that is subscribed to the Talk Out channel on the 372A. And basically it's at unity gain, fader is at 0. I do have a high pass on it, which is a little higher than normal, but you're not normally recording this and you want to get rid of some of that low end rumble when you're out in the field or whatever, and so it just makes it a little easier to hear. And the routing of this, as you can see, is that it goes to bus 10, and it's a little awkward to do this without getting in your way. And you can see that for bus 10, I've got it set to go post fade, so if I needed to boost the boom up a little bit, I can do that, and then I can hear them. So if we go to buses, that comms return bus, as you can see, currently only has Dante 32, or input channel 32 coming into it. If I had another boom op, so 2 boom ops, or needed comms return from other crew or whatever, hooked up the normal comms return down here, I could also add that, and then I would be able to hear those people in my headset as well. The other thing that I've done is that I have a little bit of noise reduction turned on this bus. Again, this is not something that you're ISOing and recording for post. This is something to make sure that you can hear and understand what your crew is saying to you when you're out in the field. So then here are the other 2 buses, and these are the buses that I send out to the boom op. And the first one is dedicated to the boom op. The second one, even though it's labeled boom op 1, could actually technically go to both boom ops if you had more than one boom op, rather than, again, how many channels you want to use and how much flexibility you need is up to you, but this is what I'm doing. So for the bus that's going to the boom, the left side bus, and of course they can flip them if they want. They can, it depends on whatever their preference is, right? So for the boom, all I've got is the channel that is the boom, right? So you can see pre-fade, it is coming from channel 1, which is what the boom is connected to in this example. And I do have buses 3 and 4 linked, so if I change things like gain and whatnot on the bus that I'm sending out to the boom op, it will do it equally on both sides. And the way the boom ops I've worked with, they typically want just their boom on one side, nothing else. Doesn't get interrupted by comms or anything. They want to be able to hear what they are recording without any kind of distraction. Which is why the second channel, which at the moment looks a lot like a mirror of the first channel, but in this channel, not only could I send them the boom again so that they hear the boom equally in both ears, but I could send them anything else that they want to hear. So if you're doing something where there's a counterparty that the person they're recording is talking to and they want to hear that counterparty, they could have the channel for that counterparty in their second ear and not in their boom here, right? So again, this is talk to your boom op, discuss what they want to hear, and then these buses give you the flexibility to send whatever they need to do their job without interruption. So that's the 2 boom buses, right? Like I say, at the moment they look pretty much the same because I've only got one mic hooked up here. But now let's go talk about how the comms are done. So I've got, as I said, my own headset, and I'm using the mic on that headset as my Slate/comm source. Actually, both of these are Sennheiser HMDs. They are dynamic, and if you're familiar with these broadcast headsets, you know that they need quite a bit of gain. That is maybe one of the things that's a drawback on the 372 is that the max gain on the 372A is 48 dB. Obviously, the Scorpio can go a lot higher. So as you can hear, the volume is okay, but it could stand to be a little bit higher. And if we go down to Slate routing, you'll note that I have bus 3 turned off, which means that if I slate or do a tone gen, well, actually a tone gen separate section, I'll show that later. But if I slate anything, it's not going to send it and override what they're hearing from the mic itself. And then also I don't send it to bus 10, which is my return comms, because I already have it going to the headphones and I don't need it doubly. And then comm send 1 routing. So this is what I use to talk to the boom op, right? So you hold in the shift button and you hit mic. And I'm sending it just to channel 4. And so, or sorry, to bus 4. So that means that no matter what, they're going to always hear their mic without interruption on the one side. And then if I have to talk to them, they will hear it on the right side. And as you can see, there's a little bit of duct that's applied. So when I talk to them, they get their right channel gets ducked a little bit. And again, like I say, you could swap the channels easily with the subscriptions on the 372. So if they wanted to hear the main boom on the right side and have the comms on the left, you could easily swap that. And then I'm not using CommSend 2. If I had, that would go to like greater crew if you're on a bigger job, right? And then if we come down to system and we go to tone, again, you can see now tone I do actually send to all of the buses because that is, you want to make sure that everything is working correctly and they can hear it. And so you're not really hitting tone ever during normal usage. It's more of just a setup check thing. And so I do actually send it. However, I don't send it to 10 because that's redundant, because that's the comms return coming back to me, and that's the tone already goes to the headphones anyway. One other setting that I do is notifications. If you look, not only do I send the notification bells to my own headset, but I'm also sending them to that extra channel for the boom op, which means that when I hit start and stop on the Scorpio, they can hear that in their headset. They get confirmation themselves when things are recording. Earlier I mentioned that you could do this with fewer buses if you wanted. One way you could do that is on the outputs page for the Dante channel. In this case, you can see that I have Dante out 5 is pulling from bus 3. But I could also change it so that it pulled directly from ISO 1, which is where the boom is connected. This only works if you are pulling a single source, because you cannot multi-select on the output screen. If you needed to multi-select, you would have to pull from a bus, which is why I just have the bus configured in general, even if I'm only sending one channel into the bus. Because if the boom op wants to hear something more, then I can easily add it in the bus config, whereas if I was just using the output, I wouldn't be able to do that because it's one output only, or sorry, one output in only going to the Dante output. And you could do the same thing with the comms out channel, but again, then you're really only going to be sending the mic, and then you'd have the comms set to override on that ISO channel when you send comms out, which is doable, but again, using the buses makes for a lot more flexibility. So I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions about the configuration, please let me know in the comments down below. Thanks. Cheers.